Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to the week. It's Monday. Here we all are, and we today are going to talk about the thing that I think anybody who knows anything about astrology knows about, which is dun dun dun, Mercury retrograde. You know, it's this big black hole that we blame all of our troubles on, that we say everything goes wrong during Mercury retrograde, and that is true. Things definitely can get more spicy, more frustrating, more breakdowns, both emotional and physical, more of the trouble that you've been avoiding. So to me, I want to spend most of the podcast talking about Mercury retrograde just because, it's something that I think we tend to fear. It's something that we put into a superstitious category like Friday the 13th or black cats or a full moon or blah, blah, blah. And yes, to these stereotypes, because yes, your computer might decide not to turn on, and yes, you might drop your phone in the lake, and yes, you might stub your toe, and yes, your car might get squeaky, but that doesn't mean that Mercury retrograde is out to get you, because it ain't. You are out to get you, and Mercury retrograde just catches up to you. So here are the highs and lows of what I consider Mercury retrograde. The highs are that, listen, if it was gonna break, it was gonna break. And Mercury retrograde just takes that moment to do that. Not to you, for you. It wasn't working. It was never working. It was never gonna work. Stop trying to make fetch happen, if you like Mean Girls references. So that's what I want to talk about, is that Mercury retrograde isn't breaking something that was never going to break. It was breaking something that was always going to break. And the high road of Mercury retrograde is, can you have the insight that floods in when the thing breaks? Instead of the why me, it's the of course me side of astrology. And sometimes it's hard to take our own medicine. I can tell you this. And if bitch's toe gets stubbed, I'm going to cry and say to the great cosmos, why me? Because I hate stubbing my toe. I hate having to go back and reflect and fix what is broken. I struggle with that because that takes an incredible amount of patience. It takes trust, and it takes the ability to stop, to just stop. And this world doesn't like stop energy. We don't. We're like the bitches that want to just keep moving the rock up the hill, even if it's the wrong hill, it's the wrong rock, it's the wrong muscle group that you're using. You're not activating your legs. We're all the types that do this in one section of our life or the other. None of us are perfect. And this Mercury retrograde is extra sassy because she's in Leo, okay? So it's a little bit louder. Now, louder doesn't mean worse. I actually think that this Mercury retrograde isn't going to be quite as crazy. I haven't been feeling like the train coming, and usually in a Mercury retrograde, I can feel it like a week before. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. And yes and no to that. It just feels like this Mercury retrograde is bolder so that we can see it clearer. I like this for us. I like this because sometimes I need the writing on the wall. Sometimes I just need a hard no to understand how to pivot. And so Mercury retrogrades are our hard no's. And this one particularly, because it's in Leo, is going to give us some insight into our tantrum mentality, our diva-ness, our, I want it my way or no way. And Mercury retrograde is going to be here to say, well, here's a way. It might not be your way. So you get to choose to tantrum through it or to think about it. And so the medicine, when we're going into Mercury retrograde, it's on Thursday. It lasts until August 11th, so it's a hot minute, is to slow down, is to ego check yourself, because a Mercury retrograde in Leo is all about the egoic self. So I think that's why I don't see it as much of a dire Mercury retrograde. It's more just like a gonna get your ego bruised kind of Mercury retrograde. Maybe you're gonna say something that you shouldn't have, and you're gonna catch some flack for it. Or, you're just gonna not be feeling paid attention to. And that can be in its own right hard. It's not about you. It's about the universe right now. It's about the collective. It's about what's going on. And that's not always fun to have to take a back seat to the universe, but the universe needs it right now. So if we can slow down, if we can not make it about us, and if we can reflect on the times where it was about us versus not, I think there's some really interesting lessons, because Mercury retrograde doesn't want you to necessarily fix the thing. And I think that is why we struggle so much in this time, is that we always want a solution. And sometimes there just isn't one right in that moment. And Mercury retrograde can be so frustrating because we want the solution. And this one is kind of like you got to sit in your soup. You got to sit in the pain. You have to sit in the broken thing. You have to sit in the no. And what are you going to do about it when you have thoroughly thought through it? It's not the kind of energy you can push up against, because the energy knocked you to the floor in the first place. So you can't push from the floor. You have to reassimilate your boundaries. You have to figure out where your nervous system is in space, and you have to reboot in a different way. If you don't like change, if you don't like outside of the box solutions, if you don't like an ego check, this Mercury retrograde might not feel very tasty. It's going to be spicy. It's going to challenge, do you just have to do it because you need to? Or are you serving a greater purpose? And that's going to be the bigger question, is the egoic self really isn't a bad thing. Just like Mercury retrograde isn't necessarily a bad thing. We write all of these stories about ourselves and about Mercury retrograde and about the quality of these things. But if you are willing to sit and reread what you've written, you might see that it's outdated, that it didn't age well, that it isn't true anymore. And so these times are very important. These retrogrades are very important. Saturn is also retrograde right now. So it's like the universe is trying to teach us something. And if you don't like to be mansplained by the universe, well, you might have some kickback and you might have some uncomfortable feelings, emotions, and thoughts on the subject. And that's okay. When is it not okay to be uncomfortable? It's through the uncomfortable emotions that we find the deeper, truer solutions and meanings. It's just not fun. And I can say all this, and does that mean I'm looking forward to this shit? Absolutely not. It's midsummer, guys. I just got done teaching a summer camp. I'm ready to chill. So this energy coming in and pushing me doesn't feel very invited, but at the same time, I feel like I too am ready to shift, to change, to see it from a different perspective. And that means I'm going to have to hang up my preconceived notions about myself. That oftentimes when things start going wrong, it is the time for us to see where we can start going right. But it just takes a minute. And so your homework for this week is to ask yourself, how do I respond when things don't go my way? Because that's what I see this period of time as, is like our cookies are getting taken from our hands, and like our initial sentiment is to throw a little baby tantrum. And my invitation is, you can totally throw the baby tantrum. I'm sure I'm going to throw a whole bunch. Yay for my partner. He's going to love that. But also, like, once you're done with the tantrum, once you're done with the toil, what is the nugget at the bottom of why you got activated, of why that thing broke, of why the cookie got taken and swiped from your hand? And the quality of that is where you can really find the catharsis in it. Of, well, it was not my cookie anyway. I didn't bake it myself. It wasn't mine to have. These are the times that we are in where we just don't get the ask and answer in the immediate way that we wish. I often find when I give readings to my people who I love so much, both strangers and familial, it's almost like you are telling them a picture that they could be painting, but that doesn't mean that that's what the picture is going to be. Astrology is always and forever an opportunity to rise to an occasion. You can just hate this Mercury retrograde. That's totally fine. No one will judge you for it, least of all me. I'm sure I'm not going to prefer it myself. However, it is an opportunity to look at the picture differently. If things always went our way, then how would we ever know of the other ways to go? Sometimes the way has to get blocked. Sometimes there has to be a detour. Sometimes there has to be that road construction that is oh so annoying to find a different path to pave. And that's okay. Wherever Leo's falling in your chart is where specifically this Mercury retrograde is going to hit you. You can ring a ding ding me for a little reading to find out how this kind of longer cycle, you know, these retrogrades can feel long. They're going to feel a little more arduous because we've had planets be direct for such a long amount of time, so that whatever's been going on, we've been able to kind of trudge forward. And when retrogrades happen, it is not necessarily a trudging forward time. It is a standing still time. The positive things you can do to work with a Mercury retrograde is ride the wave. Get rid of some stuff, clean up some stuff, have some ego sublimation moments where you're sitting with yourself and thinking about where you were actually the problem in certain scenarios. And when scenarios come to your front door, as Mercury retrograde will bring them, and Saturn retrograde, it's rather than throwing that tantrum, sitting with the energy of why that thing didn't work out, or why it made your ego get pinged in a way that brought on resistance. Resistance is how we build our muscles. So we do a lot of resistance work when we're trying to work out, when we're trying to build strength, and how about that spiritually too? When there's resistance in the cosmos, and I can't believe I'm saying this, you guys, because I hate it. I hate the resistance. I just want to push against something and have it open, goddammit. But that's just not the world we live in. And so I will swallow my medicine the same as you. But when we are resisting, when we're resisting a lesson, when we're resisting something hard happening to us, when we're resisting what needs to push against us, then we truly are only keeping at bay a big dam of water. Like, it's coming. And the longer you resist it, the more buildup it has, the more painful it's going to be, and the more swept away you're going to get. So my biggest, deepest advice is the surrender piece in these harder times, is the relaxing of the fist, is the opening of the energy to say, whatever it is you need to teach me this cycle, I am open to it. I'm not saying I'm going to like it. I'm not saying that it's going to be great or like the best time of my life, but I'm going to go ahead and relax into it and let my ego take a back seat, because with a Mercury retrograde in Leo, it's really about how you present. It's peacocking energy. Leo needs to be seen. And if you're not going to be being seen in this period of time, how are you going to ego sublimate in a way that allows you to rebuild something inside of yourself that was just a front, that was just a dam, blockading something that needed to move in the first place? That's what life's all about anyway. And so why I'm not as afraid of this Mercury retrograde as I am of others is because I feel like it is a soul opening opportunity, isn't it? It is an opportunity to let go of the masked self and to find more of the authentic self. And I super dig a good authentic moment. Whether it's easy or whether it's hard, give me authenticity at all times. But what follows up with authenticity is accountability. You can only be authentic when you are choosing to be accountable also. Because if you're always blaming someone else, if you're blaming your phone for shutting down and so you miss that important alarm or you miss that important call, you don't have to blame everything else. You can start seeing, gosh, why did I miss that call? Maybe I was meant to miss that, to make amends on this plane of my soul development. Imagine if we really did believe that every little thing happened for a reason, that every little thing was a lesson, that even the smallest little thing was here to teach us something, and we were righteously plugged into that notion, to that concept, how much faster we would be growing in our own iteration of self, how much more expansive we could be if we took our licks without the really intense high-level ego that we usually apply to our successes and our failures, both in equal parts. Don't forget that our failures are also reflections of our successes, that when we fail, it is a reflection of why we succeeded in the first place and what was overdue to be regrown, replanted, and restructured. And that's all Mercury retrograde saying. All right, like, we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel. We're just asking you to make sure that your wheel had enough air in it to fucking begin with. And if you didn't, you can't be mad that it popped. And that's it. Accountability and authenticity. That is the two words I want you to take into this lengthy Mercury retrograde, is that when things get sticky, are you being authentic in how you're feeling about it? And are you taking accountability for your part in it? And that is how we work positively with this energy that sometimes stinks, that we ascribe negative responses to. When really, guys, full moons can be incredibly embracing of what is, just like Mercury retrograde can be incredibly helpful in what isn't. It is the restoration that I am looking for. It is the rebuilding that we get at the end of the Mercury retrograde collapse. So whatever you can sense right now in this moment as you're listening to this podcast that is fixing to break, I want you to, instead of rushing to fix it, listen, I'm getting my oil change tomorrow morning, right before Mercury retrograde. I don't want to mess with it. But also, I'm willing to understand that I should have gotten my oil changed last week. And whatever is going to happen this week, I only brought onto myself. And to try to understand why I needed to bring that unto myself. And that is about taking righteous responsibility of your astrology. It's not victimizing yourself. And it's also not placating yourself and being like, oh, well, I'm just this way because of this in my chart and blah, da, 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 da. It's all excuses for righteous accountability. If you are willing to take it, you will benefit from when things break. You will benefit from the no of your life. They're just as important, and I dare say more important than the yeses. I'm saying all of this and it just sticks in my throat because I don't like it either, you guys. So there you have it. That's Mercury retrograde. That's the biggest thing that's happening right now in the sky this week. Mercury retrograde on Friday is going to sextile Venus. And we had a really big and have been having very big Venus conversations lately. So I almost feel like Venus is going to come in at the end of this week and give us a little pat on the back and hold our hand through this Mercury retrograde and do it in a friendlier way. Do it in a way that makes it feel a little gentler, a little more oriented towards, oh, this broke, but how can I make it more beautiful? How can I make what's broken inside me right now more beautiful? I love that, the vases that they fix with the gold so that all of the, broken pieces are put together again, but with gold. I love the notion of that, the idea that we're all kind of broken. We're all beings that have been shaped and cracked open by things that have hurt in our life. But Mercury retrograde is a very beautiful time with Venus sextiling it on Friday to put some gold in there, to shine some light in there, to allow the window curtains to be open because the window was broken and it reminded you there was a window there in the first place, in the deeper parts of ourselves that we don't let in for air very often. That sometimes the parts of us that break are the things that needed to be put back together different. And so that's some gentle energy too with the Mercury retrograde. And then on Sunday, Mars is conjunct the South Node. This is an interesting conversation because Mars wants to fight. Mars is fighter energy. Mars is our warrior, and it's right next to the things that we need to let go of. So with that, and Mercury being as it is, and Saturn being as it is, it's almost like, can we let go of the monologue, the diatribe, the pity party, the parts of ourselves that we don't feel like can change? What if we let go of that notion? What if we accepted and went into battle with this new part of ourself that we're just now learning right now? What if we started applying immediately the lessons that were being handed to us? I wonder. To me, this period of time is a time to be very curious about your patterns, about your habits, about what you're stubborn about, because our warrior energy loves a good shift, loves a plot twist, loves a good rearmoring. But we can't armor what we don't know is bleeding. We can't bandage it. We can't fix it if we don't know what it is. So maybe Mercury retrograde in Leo is here to teach us what it is, so that we can apply pressure to it in the right ways. Maybe we've just been tourniqueting the wrong arm all along, and we just needed to switch sides a little bit. So that is our week. And the card I pulled is Go the Distance. I love that. Commit to it. Commit to the task of allowing things to not work out, because the things that don't work out are clearing way for the things that will. And if you stick with it, if you keep going, there's always and forever finish lines popping up all over the place. Victories that we never knew were on the horizon because we didn't know where we were running in the first place. I definitely think sometimes we meander about this life confused, and we're supposed to. We're just human. We're just imperfect beings trying. And I think if we engaged more with the trying and less with the fact that we don't know, then the trying would help us to know a little bit better. And that's all Mercury's saying, guys. That's it. And it's, to me, a really beautiful opportunity to be imperfect. So, write down the things. Look in the crevices, under the cushions, under the mattress of your soul, and see what isn't working. And righteously welcome it in and let it not work, to the point where you find the solution. It's all got to break. None of it, it's such an impermanent life we lead that if we can find our flexibility in our structure, then that's how we stay loose and nimble and age gracefully, because we got to move it or we're going to lose it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, share me, call me, hire me. I'm here for you. And I will see you next week. We've got a beautiful new moon on the horizon, which I feel is such a beautiful thing to integrate in a Mercury retrograde that I feel like we'll have lots to discuss then. So I will see you next Monday.